Oh, what's up, plant family? Devin is here for another episode of Plant Vibes TV. And today's video, we're in the middle of spring. I'm starting to bring some of my plants outside to enjoy the warmer weather. And I had a couple video requests to go through the do's and the don'ts of bringing houseplants outside to enjoy that warmer weather. So here we are, I'm grabbing some of my plants. Let's go ahead and talk about some of the things that I am mentally kind of going through as I start bringing stuff outside, all right? So the first do is check your weather. You really wanna make sure that the nights are going to remain above 40 degrees. That is definitely, for most of our plants, 40 is like that most cold temperature that they want to experience. 45 is better, but 40, a lot of plants can definitely handle at least 1 or 2, maybe 3 hours of like 40 degrees. So let me see what my phone is saying right now. Okay, so here you can see my phone. I'm in Westchester, Pennsylvania, just outside of Philadelphia. That's zone 6B. And you can see the nights are 45, 54, 54, 48, 50, 41. Okay, great. So really and truly that threshold of 40 degrees, I don't want my plants to be colder than that. 45 would be better. So that's the first do. All right, let's go outside and I'll show you what I've been up to. All right, so the second thing that you really want to ensure that you do is to gradually introduce your plants to the sunlight. Our house plants, they're not used to that full exposure of the sun. The intensity from sun being outside rather than indoors there's no comparison. It's like, you know, your first day down in Cancun and you decide you're gonna be outside on the beach all day long, and by the end of the night, you are red as a beet. That has been me many times. The same thing happens with our plants. We don't have sunscreen that we can put on our plants, so what we need to do is to gradually introduce them to the sunlight. Over the course of about maybe 4 to 6 days, we're gradually gonna put our plants into more and more sunlight. So if you have an area of the home outside that is like completely shaded, leave your plants there for 2 days. Then on the 3rd day, give them maybe an hour of diffused sunlight, not ready for that full sunlight yet. By the 7th day, all right, maybe you can put it in an area where it's going to get morning sunlight or a few hours in the afternoon of sunlight. Pretty much none of our houseplants, whether it's Monstera or Anthurium, any of those houseplants, they don't want to be in that full sun from morning to night anyway. So a place that with morning sunlight is absolutely fantastic. Really the only plants that we want to give full sun exposure after about a week of acclimating them to the outdoors are things like our succulents and our cacti. Those plants, they do want that full sun exposure, but you have to even give those guys like a week of acclimation. Let me show you what happens if you don't. So here you can see my zigzag cactus and all of these marks, all of that is sun damage. I was impatient, I put it outside and it only got morning sunlight and it is all burnt. This was from last year. That's the problem with sun burning on your plants. There's no way, like they're not gonna create a new layer of skin like, you know, after a week like you do after you sunburn. No, you have to wait, you have to cut that foliage off because it's never going to regenerate, all right? So it's really important, gradually introduce your plants to sunlight. So if you don't have any areas that you can shelter your plants from the sunlight totally, and you have to figure out a way to make do. So for me, I have this nice little shelving unit from IKEA that I'm gonna be putting a lot of my houseplants on. So it gets pretty intense sunlight. So the way that I'm going to give them that shelter is with this. What this is barrier netting. It's basically, you can put it on like fruit trees to keep the birds from eating your fruit, things like that. It can also keep them warm. But for me right now, it's absolutely perfect for covering these plants up so that they don't get that direct exposure. This, even though it's quite thin, it's gonna do absolutely what I want. And I know it looks ugly, but it's just gonna be for a few days while these plants start to really get used to being outside, get used to that sun. It helps, this acclimation period actually helps to strengthen the cell walls of the foliage so that they can handle that extreme sun, but also the change in temperatures that they're going to be experiencing. Very, very important. You gotta coddle them for a little bit while we move them outdoors. That's really, really important. Now the next thing that you need to do is you need to consider that you're gonna be watering your plants with much more frequency. They're gonna dry out more quickly than they did inside. So if you're not going to be a proactive gardener and actually look at your plants every single day, better to keep them inside because they'll dry out more quickly and they'll reach that state of not being able to revitalize themselves much faster than they do inside the home. You can save plants that have been too dry for too long inside the house more easily, not outside. So keep that in mind. You're gonna have to be more proactive watering. Get yourself, like, this is a small guy. I got a 3-gallon watering jug coming in the mail, I think hopefully tomorrow, because this is gonna, because I'm gonna have a lot of plants and I don't wanna be, dragging my hose every day. I'd rather fill up my watering pail and water individually just like this. So invest in like a $20, $30 2 to 3 gallon watering pail. It's gonna be a lifesaver, I promise you. The fourth thing that you can do is this is a great time to prune back plants that have gotten overgrown or to repot plants. They're just gonna be starting that active growth stage. So this is the perfect time. Cut things back, let them start over, repot them into a larger container. They want to grow right now with these longer days, the warmer temperature. So that's another thing you can really think about. I just cut this Dieffenbachia back. Now I'm putting it outside and this should really fill out super fast. So I'm super thrilled I'm super excited to watch it grow more quickly outside. Everything is gonna grow 3-4 times as fast outside as it did inside. So that's something to bear in mind. Plants that haven't received new soil in a few years, this is the time. Give them new soil, take them out, give them fresh soil, put them back in the same container, put them in a larger container, put them in a more decorative container, whatever you want. This is the time. Spring is the time to do all of these things that you've been avoiding. Now, another thing that is really important to do right now as our plants are going to be exploding in growth, things like this banana, which is going to quickly outgrow this little container. This is also a really important time to think about fertilizing. Fertilize twice a month throughout these warmer months. You could even fertilize maybe 3 or 4 times a month if you have the fertilizer on hand. Why not? As they're actively growing, you're going to encourage that flower formation and you're going to give them the nutrients that they need to really explode in growth. That's why we want to have them outside, because we want them to grow much faster. Definitely fertilize. I'll be using my family's brand, Roberta's Bounty. I'll leave a link down in the description if you need to add fertilizer to your home garden this summer, all right? You do want to go buy yourself some insecticidal super soap, something like this. This is what I like to always have on hand. The reason is because you want to be prepared now so that when in late summer, fall, when the nights start dipping back down, you have this on hand, because you're going to want to inspect your plants thoroughly before you bring them. I know us gardeners, we're always thinking 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 seasons out. All right, so think about when the summer is over, you're gonna wanna have this on hand so that you can spray all of your plants before bringing them inside. There's nothing worse than bringing one infected plant inside the home and having it spread all of its insects to all of its other neighboring plants, all right? And a final do, did I just say that was a final do? This is the final do. Cluster your plants together. It's going to create a nice little ecosystem. Plants are always happier when they have friends to hang out with throughout the summertime, just like you. All right, so cluster your plants together. It really does create like a little ecosystem for the plants, and they always do better when they're growing together. I don't know why. Something about it. Mother Nature is just telling us that she likes to see a lot of beauty all at once, just like I do. All right, so that is so important. Okay, so now let's go to the do nots, all right? So I already talked about the number one biggest do not, which is do not put things out in the full sun, all right? This guy, my big ol' Epiphyllum heucheri, I'm giving it a little bit of afternoon sunlight. It's really soft sunlight right now. I'm giving him 1 hour of this afternoon, sweet afternoon soft sunlight, but nothing more. So I'm just re-impressing upon your minds not to give full sunlight right away. Look at some of my other beautiful plants out here. I brought these coleus out. This is the time, if you were overwintering anything inside the home throughout the winter, bring them out. Planted up some sun patience. Here you can see this beautiful hydrangea that I just brought outside. So pretty. All right. Oh yes, bringing all of my old amaryllis that I had blooming throughout this winter. Those are all outside right now. I'm starting to plant up my annuals. This is just a side note. Some Calibrachoa. Calibrachoa are my favorite annuals. Okay, so for the do nots, we're gonna go back inside because I'm gonna be showing you things that shouldn't go outside, right? So we should be back inside. Okay, so the number one do not bring plants outside that are currently flowering or budding, like this guy. This is my Zigzag Cactus. It's got these beautiful buds that are about to open up. The last thing that I want to do is bring this outside, give it some sort of shock, and it's gonna drop the buds before even flowering. Another one is my Christmas cactus. Ooh, dripping. You can see it has a couple little buds. See that guy? That guy right there? Pretty little buds just starting right now. So I will absolutely not be bringing anything outside that's in flower or in buds. Once those two succulents are done, I will absolutely bring them outside. Succulents, cactus, those plants need to be outside in the summertime. They're not gonna be happy if you don't bring them outside. So that is a do/do not, okay? Okay, and the next do not. Do not bring Hoyas out. No, just kidding. Hoyas are fantastic plants to have outside, but I'm not gonna be bringing this one. Why? Because there's no drainage holes in this container. I have tons of plants, not tons. I have maybe, I don't know, in my 100 plants back here, I probably have 12 to 15 of them in containers that don't have any drainage holes. Why are we not gonna bring plants that don't have drainage holes? Well, it rains. What's gonna happen if your plant doesn't have drainage holes and you get a huge rainstorm? This thing is gonna drown. Everything else is gonna be fine with drainage holes. It's gonna flow out naturally, all right? So that should be an obvious one. Do not put plants outside that are in containers without drainage. Now, if it's a plant like this guy, this has no drainage, but you know, it's just a slip cover. Well, that's great. I can bring this, I'll bring this out, but I won't leave it in this. I'll leave this inside and leave this guy on its own without this slip cover, okay? So don't leave plants that are in containers that don't have drainage holes outside. The number of times I've had people, oh, I left my desert rose outside, it didn't have drainage holes, we got one heavy rain and then it died. Yeah, of course it did, all right? So don't do that. All right, so those are the do's and do nots. Now, if you're wondering what plants I'm actually going to be bringing outside, obviously I'm not gonna be bringing them all outside. So let's kind of like, we'll just take a quick little tour and I'll show you guys what I'm actually gonna be bringing outside and what I'm just gonna be leaving inside. So I'm definitely not gonna be bringing anything outside that's not fully rooted. All of my cuttings, I'm gonna leave inside on my heat mat where they have a nice controlled environment. You never know what's gonna happen outside, so you want plants that are in containers that, you know, they're really well rooted plants, or if you've just transplanted them, you transplanted them because they have filled out that container and they are ready to keep growing. So that's something to bear in mind. This guy, this beautiful Rhaphidophoritis cursiva, I think I will leave it inside because it's growing really well. I don't really have any reason to bring it outside. Now this Anthurium, I will bring it outside because they're really, it's native to really jungly weather, jungly areas, and it's not growing super fast. So I like to bring plants outside that haven't been doing well or haven't been growing as quickly as I think they should. So this guy I will bring outside. They're definitely gonna bring out my Zigzag Cactus. This guy is he's just too delicate. I think he's meant for indoors. My little peace lily. All of my things like coleus that I've overwintered, absolutely. I'm thinking about bringing my jade outside. It's so happy here. So many of you guys enjoyed that jade video. Thanks for watching if you did. But I might bring it outside. It's on the maybe list. Now my Senecio and which guy is this? I forget which one this is. I'll remember here in a minute. These guys, both of these succulents, absolutely musts to go outside. This guy, not really. It's so happy in here. No real reason to bring it outside. Anything that's a little bit delicate, I will leave it inside. I think I will, but on the other hand, this Florida Ghost, I think I'm gonna bring it outside for a little while because it's just been so slow. So one of the things that is really important to understand, or one of the things that you should think about, is that if there's plants that have kind of been a little bit stunted in their growth, bring those ones outside. This will unstunt them. It's gonna help them elevate over that plateau that they've been stuck on, all right? So things like that Florida Ghost right here, it's just been kind of just chilling, not doing anything. So I will definitely bring it outside, give it that warm air. It's gonna love it. This dude here is definitely going outside because it's also been stunted. It just cannot seem to take off. This is my golden brush Burbigia Schizella or something. Golden brush plant. I'll bring that outside. This banana, and it's mixed with this spider plant. I'm not going to bring that outside because it's in a relatively small pot. It's going to require way too much watering way too often. So I'll leave this guy inside. This lemon lime philodendron right here, I will bring this outside for a few months just to help it really kickstart its growth because it's also been quite slow. My anthurium is doing fantastic. Why not just leave it right there? That's what I think. My pink princess, also been super slow. So if I bring this outside, let's turn this off so we can see that color. So I will definitely bring this guy outside, let her experience some nice warm weather. Hopefully that'll help it grow faster. My ficus, why? It looks so pretty there. Monstera, this guy ain't moving, that's for sure. Not really seeing anything right here that is really dying to go outside. My agave, possibly, but it's such a precious plant, I'm a little bit scared. If you have any plants that are really precious to you, leave them inside where it's safe, I guess. This anthurium, which I had divided, finally really starting to take off. I think I'll bring it outside as well. So yeah, that's the other thing. If you have any plants that you don't really care about, like they're not like super sentimental to you, bring those ones outside too. Maybe you'll create a memory that will make it sentimental for you. Like this anthurium, for me, it really has no memory attached to it, so I think I will bring it outside to maybe see what happens. So that's kind of my thought process on what plants I want to bring outside, what plants I don't, as well as some of the do's and don'ts of bringing plants from your indoor garden to the jungle, the outdoor wildness. If you have any other further questions or any other comments or any experience you'd like to share, leave a comment below. I love reading them, even the snarky ones. You guys are all lovely. Also wanted to say thank you guys. We passed 20,000 subscribers recently, so that's a huge achievement. Our Plant Vibrations community is growing. Thank you guys for joining me here on another episode of Plant Vibes TV. I'll catch you soon. Happy gardening.